There was a study made about 2 years ago by a large university that said that red was the hardest color to see at night for the human eye. And they came up that with a lime yellow color was the easiest color for the human eye to see at night. And so we just decided to go with this color, since we already knew that the hydrants were hard to see, and we didn't need much convincing.
Well, I think one thing that created a shortage of general practitioners in rural areas is the fact that most people, when they go to medical school, they say, if I'm going to be a doctor, I want to be the best doctor I can be. And therefore, the idea of specialization comes into mind. And so we've had more doctors becoming specialists, which would reduce the number of general practitioners. Now, when a general practitioner goes to a small town, there's a hospital with an emergency room, and there are times when there may be only one doctor for the hospital. This means being on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it gets to be sort of a tight situation as far as time is concerned. With the new ambulance situation, towns having being subsidized for ambulances, more and more are having a radio service so that they can radio the doctor, and the doctor can talk with the emergency room without actually being there. Makes the situation a lot better. Lead us with. October 3rd, 1973. That was when we were told we would get phones. That's the day we moved in.
How many are there in your group?
About 55.
And how long has the longest one been without phone service?
Almost 8 years now. It'll soon be 8. Since 1967, so it'll be 7 years. I think they should have had some idea as to expansion they needed in rural counties, and not let citizens like us move out thinking we were going to get phones and then not be able to get them.
In order to combat inflation, we must cut federal spending, balance the federal budget, and encourage increased production of manufactured products and agricultural products. I am co-sponsor of an amendment to cut the budget by $10 billion, and the record shows that I'm the lowest spending Democratic senator in my Senate voting. The 1973 Farm Bill, which I sponsored, changed federal farm policy from promoting an economy of scarcity of farm products to supporting an abundance. Also, I co-sponsored the recently enacted bill providing for a congressional budget to keep government spending in line with receipts. Since more production is needed to keep prices down, I see no reason why there must be a reduction of jobs in the private sector as a tool against inflation. The high cost of living is our #1 concern, and I will continue my best efforts to hold it down.
5 years ago today, on July 20th, 1969, man first set foot on the moon. As Neil Armstrong stepped out of Apollo 11, an era ended in the space exploration period, and here at the Huntsville Space Flight Center, research that had taken years to develop was cumulated. Now the research has gone into a different project, the space shuttle, to be set up soon in the 1980s. Some workers have been laid off here at the Marshall Space Flight Center, although work continues on other projects. Gigantic rockets such as this one used to be tested often here. An emphasis has been changed now. Instead of testing rockets, they're testing more systems. One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. With those words, Neil Armstrong set forth on the moon July 20th, 1969, as millions across the world watched. Alabama's contribution to the moon landing was more than important, as Dr. Werner von Braun and his associates here at the George C. Marshall Space Flight Center helped develop the gigantic Saturn V that launched them into space. The Alabama Space and Rocket Center serves to preserve all this, and visitors can come and view this authentic moon set, complete with lunar lander, 2 astronauts, and American flag, along with other memorabilia from the space flight generation. A generation that now is approaching something more unique, long space endurance. Wallace Sears, WSFA TV News, at the George C. Marshall Space Flight Center and the Alabama Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville.
Well, the project is, an overall project is in a 4-block area bounded on the south by Bibb, the west by Moulton, the north by Union Station, and the river, and the east by Commerce. Has about 19 acres in it. The 4-block area will park about 1,000 cars, 500 of which will be under the two buildings which you see here. This is the exhibition hall, which is a large building which takes care of conventions, trade shows, dances, all of the civic needs of the people of Montgomery. This is phase 2, which is the concert hall, which will be a theater of the size of approximately 2,700 seats and a fixed seating configuration. This whole area is designed as a 4-block unit or plan, so that when we're completed, we'll have a unified 4-block area of a civic center, which we hope will be one of the outstanding in the country. So we've had the experience of seeing about 35 civic centers in about 35 cities to compare what their facilities are with what we are going to have in Montgomery.
Well, of course, John, what we're trying to find out from the other cities is, what would you do if you were doing it over again? In other words, we were looking for their mistakes. We were trying to arrive at the size facility that a city our size would need. And I think what we're going to have here is a civic center with the mistakes eliminated.
We don't have a real structured thing today. This is a real informal. We want you to get to know each other and know us, and then we want to talk about some issues.
Well, we cannot have diversion and implement the governor's program that he talked about at the AEA convention. And of course, we have had that sort of problem in the past. In 1971, of course, you remember we had a retirement issue, and then finally it got resolved, and then we had a little sales tax question about certain sales tax monies going to things other than education. I hope that that won't be tried again, that these departments that are in some financial straits will not look at that surplus in the Educational Trust Fund as a possible source of revenue. First of all, I don't buy the idea that we have a surplus. Now, I guess in bookkeeping terms you could call it a surplus, but in educational language it doesn't spell surplus to me. I think what we've got is an unappropriated balance. We can't say that we got a surplus. The surplus to me implies we got more dollars than we need. Well, as long as we got 38 kids in a classroom, we can't say we got more dollars than we need in education. We've got unappropriated dollars. As long as we still got kids out having to sell magazines and candy in order to get instructional supplies, we can't say we got a surplus. We need those dollars, and we need them badly to get in there in those classrooms and do something about the number of kids in the class and the fact that these kids don't have enough instructional supplies.
Dave, the substance antimony, does the company admit that this is part of the waste that they will be dumping?
Yes, they plan to dump 14,000 tons of waste into the Gulf, some 230 miles offshore, and among this 14,000 tons is 180,000 pounds of antimony, less than 100 milligrams of which will kill an adult.
Well, basically, our first objection was that the material proposed to be dumped is extremely dangerous and extremely poisonous, and they propose to dump 300,000 pounds of this material, antimony, which is a heavy metal like mercury and is very poisonous. And for one thing, all the effects are not known of this substance, but the effects that are known are very toxic. Our second general objection was that the material is being brought from West Virginia, 1,000 miles away, and we did not believe that adequate on-site disposal methods had been explored. They just stated flatly that they could not afford to treat it or store it on site. They had to take it and dump it in the Gulf. So those were our basic objections.
Well, Bob, I don't think realistically that we got much chance of winning before EPA, but we're going to keep on until we win it somewhere. I don't have any confidence in EPA, period, anymore. They started off good several years ago. EPA, as you know, is the Environmental Protection Agency, which is a federal agency, and they're supposed to protect the environment. We shouldn't be having to do these things. The people on my staff shouldn't be having to do this research. That agency should be there to protect the people from pollution such as this. This thing frightens the devil out of me, what we've learned about it. It's a serious thing. I don't have any confidence in EPA anymore. But I'll just say this, if they don't revoke this permit, then we go into court, we're going to carry it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. We're going to do whatever it takes to stop this.
The city of Montgomery has had a balanced budget for the last 2.5 years, but inflation is doing the same thing to the city budget that it is doing to taxpayers' expenses at home. Any taxpayer who drives up to a gasoline pump understands what I'm talking about. You know what the rising cost of gasoline has done to your budget in terms of the cost of getting to and from work. Think what it's doing to your tax dollars. The city buys 3,500 gallons of gasoline per day for cars and trucks. You can easily see how this one item alone is putting the pressure on the city budget. Like every family, our city family is going to have to find ways to cut down. Now, more than ever, people cannot afford higher taxes. One way we can cut down is in the matter of overtime. Overtime is costing the taxpayers of Montgomery more than $500,000 a year. The state and the federal governments are partly responsible. In order to try to meet the rising cost of inflation, I'm ordering City Comptroller John II to pay only genuine emergency overtime. This order is effective immediately.